Good morning, everyone. I'm Yves Lamoth, and I work for the Exploration Ground Systems here at the Kennedy Space Center, the world's preeminent launch complex for government and commercial space access. As some of you may know, we do big things and we do things big here at the Space Center, just like this massive structure behind me here called the Crawler Transporter 2. To put it in perspective, the Crawler Transporter is what will carry the mobile launcher along with NASA's Integrated Space Launch System rocket and the Orion spacecraft to the pad. Not only do we do things big and we do big things, but we have big news and we're excited to share that with you. We are getting ready to undergo testing where we're going to use the Crawler Transporter, the Vehicle Assembly Building, the Launch Control Center, the pad, and the Crawler Transporter to do testing here at the Kennedy Space Center. For the first time tomorrow, the Crawler Transporter is going to take the mobile launcher to the pad. And to talk to us a little bit more about the Crawler Transporter here, I have John Giles, who is the Crawler Transporter's project manager, and one of the Crawler drivers, Sam Dove. Now, folks, as we're doing this live for you, please feel free to submit your questions, and I'll be able to ask on your behalf. So to kick things off, John, can you tell us a little bit more about the Crawler Transporter?
The Crawler Transporter was originally designed and construction began back in the early 1960s, and large pieces of it were shipped here to KSC, where it was assembled into the crawler that you see here now. We made its first roll in approximately mid-1965, and it has served well for the Apollo program and the shuttle program, and then of course SLS program will be doing everything it needs. And the one big change after the end of the previous program was we have to be able to pick up more weight. So the SLS program said they wanted us to be able to pick up 18 million pounds. The previous amount was 12 million pounds. So we had to do a lot of modifications a few years.
Does it take to modify such a massive structure to support that much more weight? We're talking to
Kennedy Space Center and the Ames Center out. They determined again
actually certified to drive by yourself.
And so, how many drivers do we have here on center?
Well, right now there are 8 of us. We have 4 fully certified drivers, and 4 more that are in training and are very close to getting their certificate.
Absolutely, absolutely amazing. So, what we're going to do at this time, folks, social media sites. Question. Instagram. Sam drive gets answered. I'm make and for is The mobile launcher sitting on the crawler?
Sure, we have definite speed requirements on the slope, and we do not exceed 0.3, either up or down, whether we're loaded or unloaded. And that way it gives the jacking, equalization, and leveling system time and enough time to react and stay level. Because you are still dealing with hydraulics and it's not super instantaneous. You have to give it a second to keep itself level and all.
Okay. So, John, we'll kind of go back a little bit to design, right, and what this was intended for. Now, at these kinds of speed and the size of this structure, how long do you think it would take for it to, say, travel from here to the moon?
We had that question, and so I needed to go do some math. So I went and checked it, and we're roughly 239,000 miles to the moon. Figuring if the crawler was going at 1 mile an hour, it would take roughly 27 years to get there.
27 years. That is absolutely amazing. 27 years just to get from here all the way to the moon. So actually, amazingly large structure. And again, this is how we do here at KSC. The space business is a big business, and it takes a lot for us to get from here to deep space. So we have another question here from YouTube. This is user Bo, and ask, how long does the prep time on the crawler take, and how much grease is used?
We use quite a bit of lubrication. The prep time is depends on what you're really going to do, the mission you're going to do, but we replenish all the oils, the greases, the lubrications, and refill the crawler. You probably use, I don't know, probably a couple barrels of lubrication for the tracks. You can see the tracks behind us, and they're a little greasy right now too.
That's a 55-gallon barrel.
55-gallon barrel. Yeah, that's true. And for the pin spray, which keeps the pins, as you can see, that hooks the belts together, that pin spray, we usually go through about a barrel, a 55-gallon barrel, and maybe a half per mission.
Wow. Yeah. Now, earlier you talked about a team of about 30 people that it takes, when this thing is on the move. Is that 30 people the entire time? So I imagine there's going to be some people walking on the floor. There's some people on the deck. There's people in the cabin. How exactly does that work?
Right. Well, we have observers on the ground, usually one on each corner, to help the driver and make sure that we don't get over too far or get in any kind of trouble in the curves. We have guys in our pump rooms and engine rooms, and we have guys walking around, laying hands on things, making sure it's good. Because you got good instrumentation, but you want to keep your folks involved, because there's nothing can beat a person down there making sure everything's good. And all those guys rotate through too. They don't spend the whole time walking on the crawler. And they spend time up in the engine room, the pump rooms, down on the down on the side watching. They spend time on break, and it's just a continual rotation of people.
Gotcha. Now, John, being that the crawler has been used for multi-programs throughout the many programs here at NASA. Now, if for some reason we needed to upgrade the crawler transporter to carry even more weight. Is that something that's actually possible?
I think so. We would have to do another analysis to figure out how much more weight we could carry, but oh, sure, we can do that.
Okay. Very, very well, very well. All right, so we'll take some more questions from our watchers here. We have another YouTube question. So the question is, how much does the crawler weigh?
Well, right now we're just it's about 6.6 million pounds, just a hair over that.
Now, let me ask, how exactly do you know that?
Well, during the mods, we actually picked the trucks up. We had a company come in, walked underneath, and we picked the trucks off those cylinders and weigh the chassis. So when you add it all together, you can see what the crawler weighs. Gotcha. And it comes up to around 6.6, maybe just a hair over. Yeah.
Very well. 6.6 million miles. That is absolutely, again, amazing. Here at KSC, we do things big. All right, so we'll take some more questions.
While you're looking for another one, actually, I could tell you back on the laser system, even though Sam described we don't use a laser system to level the crawler, we are going to implement a laser system that lines us up for driving underneath whatever we have to pick up. So we are going to implement that, so then that'll give us precision alignment, because we have to be pretty precise when we roll underneath things so we can pick it up and so it's balanced.
Absolutely. Amazing. All right, so here we go. Our next question is from Twitter, and Mike asks, does the crawler
about it can go up and down 6 feet? So what we'll do is we'll lower down, go underneath whatever we're picking up, line up, make sure everything's in the right place, and then we'll lift up and then pick it up and actually put it on our back and carry it, and then when we get to wherever we're going, we set it down and drive away. So that's how we pick it up and drop it off.
Got it. More questions coming in, folks. Keep the questions coming in. Thank you for staying involved. This is a question from YouTube. This is John Burkett asks, is the road surface prepped before a load carry? And I imagine that, I think he's talking about the pebbles that are on the ground here.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. It's conditioned every time, and they pull the gravels out, get all the hills and valleys out, all the furrows where people's running across it, get it all nice and level for us, and it makes a nice smooth ride for the crawler when it's like that.
And this has to be done for every single time that the crawler is carrying a load out there?
Sometimes we don't, because we're looking at crawler weight things. We want to see how the rocks are holding up and everything. But for every major move and for every mobile launcher move, every move with flight hardware, it's always conditioned and groomed.
Gotcha. Okay. Very well. Another question from YouTube. This is Space Girl asks, when will the tower be moved? So as I mentioned, for the first time tomorrow, the crawler is going to be picking up the mobile launcher and taking it out to the pad to undergo the testing. So that's going to be coming up tomorrow, folks. So please make sure you stay tuned. Stay tuned with us the entire week, as we have so many activities going on with all of that. All right, this is a question from Facebook. This is from Peter Mazzi. Ask, how does moving the mobile launcher tower with the SLS, which is the Space Launch System, compare to moving the mobile launcher launch umbilical tower with the Saturn V on it?
Well, when I first arrived at KSC, I was fortunate enough to work with some of the Apollo guys. And
can I ask how many years ago that was?
You can. No, I started in '87 here. Yeah. I was very fortunate to be mentored by some of these guys, and they would always impart to us, the stories of the rollout with the tower and the Saturn V. And from what we've seen, we've moved this mobile launcher before it was all modified and all outfitted. We moved it twice already, and it'll be very similar, but we're going to wind up with a heavier rocket when we go with that, a bigger rocket. And the crawlers, just think about driving your truck down the road empty versus having bags of cement or mulch in the back or something like that. It rides a little bit different with that weight. I suspect it'll be kind of very similar. The tower will move around a little bit just like it did in Apollo, but the crawler is well suited to handle it, and I think it'll be a successful rollout. Pretty much the same thing.
Very good. Amazing. Okay, next question. Steve Evan asks, how quickly can it stop?
Well, that depends. First of all, it's how fast you're going. At 0.9, if you stop the crawler, and, for instance, just take your foot off the gas, as you know, or you hit what's called an emergency stop, it will roll approximately 20 feet, 25 feet. If you apply the brakes, it will stop much quicker, and we try not to do that because we don't want to rock. We don't want to rock our payload, damage the rocket or anything in a way. So generally, if you stop, you just let it roll to a stop.
And it comes to a stop. Okay, very good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are getting some weather warnings here right now, so we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. I'm going to go ahead and ask just one last question before we're done. But on behalf of the Kennedy Space Center here, the Exploration Ground Systems Program, thank you so much for participating. We're very excited to keep you in tune with everything that we have going on. Our last question is going to be from Jim Thurman, and the question is, why does NASA use those particular rocks on the pathway?
Well, they did a study, of course, and you have to look at the size of the gravel, the roundness of the gravel, and what the makeup of the gravel is, of the rock. And what that does is it helps the frictions for steering and spreads the